All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go over how to do these density calculations for you. Then you're going to have some practice problems in the back of the room that you can do for these density calculations, which will be on your unit test on Friday. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. When you read this problem, find the density of a sample that has a mass of 45.6 grams and displaces 62.3 milliliters of water. These two numbers are the things that you have to figure out what they represent. Since this is grams, this is representing a mass. Since this is milliliters, this is representing a volume. I'm not going to write this formula this way. I don't like it that way. I prefer to write it this way. Density is equal to mass divided by volume. So now, ladies and gentlemen, what you need to do is you need to plug in your numbers where they belong. So we are solving for density, first three words of the problem. So density equals the mass, 45.6 grams, divided by 62.3 milliliters of water. So your density equals some number. I'm not going to do the calculation. You can figure it out. The unit is grams over milliliters, and it should be to 3 sig figs when you are done, ladies and gentlemen. That is how you do problem number 77. Straightforward density calculation. Figuring out what the mass is, what the volume is, solving for density. Okay, let's move on to slide 78. Again, I'm going to get rid of this formula here. Okay, and I'm going to rewrite it. Density is equal to mass divided by volume. Okay, I'm going to rewrite it over here as well because I'm going to work this problem two ways in just a second. Find the mass of a sample. So I know I'm solving for mass. That is ultimately what I'm going to try to find. That when placed in 50 milliliters of water has a final volume of 94.2. These two numbers right here are volumes. This is the final volume. This is what is called the initial volume. This is what we did in our lab, where we took the water, or the graduated cylinder, put some water in it, then dropped the object in. So to find the volume of the object, you're going to take the final volume minus the initial volume, the volume with the water in the object minus the volume of just the water. So the volume of the object is equal to 94.2 milliliters minus 50.0 milliliters. That gives us a volume of 44.2 milliliters. Now the problem also gives us a density. This is a density. So we are going to need to rearrange our formula to solve for mass. So over here, I'm going to do that without putting numbers in. Now, to do that, I want to get mass on its own on one side of the equation. Since mass is supposed to be divided by volume, the way we get it on its own is we are going to take this times volume. That will get volume and volume to cancel. What you do to one side of an equation, to keep it equal, you have to do to the other. So I'm going to take and multiply volume on this side. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this formula says that mass is equal to density times volume or volume times density. Doesn't matter. Either way, but that is what mass is equal to. So now you could plug your numbers into here. I'm going to do the problem over here with my numbers plugged in. So 2.31 grams per milliliter is our density. That is equal to the mass, which I don't know, so I'm going to leave M, divided by 44.2 milliliters. All right? So now again, I'm going to try to isolate M on its own. To do so, I'm going to take this side times 44.2 milliliters, and what I do to one side of an equation, I do to the other. Now, this whole thing cancels out here. The unit of milliliters and milliliters cancel out here, and our mass is equal to 44.2 times 2.31 grams. Grams will be the only unit left over here. Your number should have 3 sig figs. Finish your math and do your calculation. That is how we solve for mass if we are looking to solve for mass. Again, you can do the math with the symbols in, solving for it, or you can plug the numbers in. Your choice either way. All right, so now there's one more problem to do. A 17.6 gram sample. 17.6 grams, ladies and gentlemen, that is a mass. How do I know? Grams measures mass. A 17.6 gram sample of aluminum. Here you go. Density given to you right there. Would occupy how much space in liters? All right, good. So this is a problem where we're doing it in liters. You're going to have one like this in your practice problem, so you better write this down or you better know this, ladies and gentlemen. We need to know the relationship between milliliters and liters, and it is this: 1,000 milliliters equals 1 liter. You're going to need that. Get rid of this. Again, I don't like it written that way. So density is equal to mass divided by volume. Going to do it over here with numbers. So here I'm now solving for V. Now, common mistake people make is they will divide both sides by M and think they are solving for V. So they will do this. They will take this times 1 over M and this times 1 over M. And they will get D over M equals what they think is V. It is not. This is 1 over V. You do not want to do this. So instead, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take and we're going to divide times both sides by V. Why? Because it gets V off of the bottom of the equation. So now V times D equals M. But I want to isolate V. I'm trying to get V alone. So on this side, I'm going to divide by D. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. So the formula should be this: volume is equal to mass divided by density. That is how we solve for volume. Over here, we're going to put 2.70 grams. Sorry. Again, I don't like writing it with that slash. I prefer doing it above and beyond, above and below, so you can see this. Over milliliters equals the mass, 17.6 grams, over V. Same thing we did before. We are going to isolate V. But to do that, I'm going to take it, I'm going to multiply both sides times V. So V times 2.70 grams per milliliter equals 17.6 grams. Now I'm going to take and get V on its own over here by dividing by 2.70. Why am I doing that? Because to get it alone, I need to do the opposite math to it. So I'm going to divide this side by 2.70 grams per milliliter. This whole part cancels out. Grams and grams cancel out, ladies and gentlemen. So volume is equal to 17.6 divided by 2.70, 1 over milliliters. This will give you an answer in milliliters. You then need to convert it into liters still. This is what you are going to do. You're going to use unit cancellation. When you are all done, ladies and gentlemen, your answer should be in 3 sig figs and in liters. So you need to finish that up, ladies and gentlemen. All right. There are 6 sample problems in the back of the room. You can work on those. If you finish with those, you can start looking things over for your unit test on Friday. Or, ladies and gentlemen, if you are missing any labs or anything of that nature, you can work on those and get those turned in. I will be back in class tomorrow. And if you have any questions, we'll take them real quickly because then we have to do a lab in class tomorrow. Have a good day, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you on Tuesday.